Ever been to one of those town council meetings where things get a little out of hand? Well, imagine a political feud so heated,
Oh, yeah.
it makes national news.
I can imagine.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
The story of Tarrant, Alabama.
Hi.
A town of just 6,000 people,
Okay.
where the political drama is anything but small town.
What's interesting about this case is that it seems like something straight out of a reality TV show.
Right.
But it actually reflects some deeper tensions we're seeing in small towns across America.
We've got a stack of news articles,
Okay.
court documents, and even some security footage.
Interesting.
Our mission
Okay.
to understand how personal conflicts, accusations of racism, and even physical altercations are shaping the political landscape of this community.
And to see if we can glean any insights into how these types of conflicts might be playing out in other towns where the spotlight isn't quite as bright.
Yeah. At the center of this story are two key figures.
Right.
Mayor Wayman Newton, Tarrant's first black mayor, and Councilman Tommy Bryant, a white councilman nearing 80 years old.
And let me tell you, their relationship is, shall we say, strained.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
These two have been clashing for years.
Wow.
It started with verbal sparring, but things escalated to a physical altercation back in 2022.
Really?
There have been accusations of racial slurs.
Oh, wow.
A punch thrown over an insult about Bryant's wife.
Oh, my goodness.
And now an impeachment lawsuit.
It's like a powder keg.
Yeah.
It keeps getting reignited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the most recent explosion happened just last week
at
the November 18th City Council meeting. This meeting was supposed to be about routine city business, but it quickly devolved into a shouting match.
The initial spark was Mayor Newton's attempt to dismiss the Tarrant police chief, Wendell Major, who he'd accused of misconduct.
And Councilman Bryant decided to bring up the 2022 incident where he punched the mayor, defending his actions by saying any man with guts would have done the same.
It's important to note that Chief Major was present.
Oh, really?
During that assault.
Wow.
Adding another layer of complexity to this whole situation.
Things really went off the rails from there.
Oh, boy.
Bryant threatened to hit Newton again if he was called a boy.
Jeez.
And Newton accused Bryant of using racial slurs.
Oh, my.
All of this played out in front of Tarrant residents, creating a very tense and charged atmosphere.
You can practically feel the temperature rising in the room just reading about it. It speaks to a level of animosity that goes far beyond typical political disagreements.
Councilwoman Veronica Freeman tried to restore order, but Bryant kept going, even making a comment about the mayor's sexuality. This is where it gets interesting. It wasn't until someone from the public spoke up that things finally calmed down.
That's a detail I found really fascinating.
Yeah.
It seems to suggest that the community itself might be reaching a breaking point with this level of dysfunction in their local government.
To really grasp the depth of this feud, we need to rewind to November 2022 and the infamous parking lot punch. Security cameras captured the whole thing, and it's been making headlines ever since.
This incident happened after another contentious council meeting.
Oh.
So it seems there's a pattern of these disagreements spilling over into more aggressive confrontations.
According to Bryant's attorney, after that meeting, Newton approached Bryant and repeatedly told him, F you.
Wow.
Bryant responded sarcastically, saying he needed a quarter, and that's when Newton allegedly made a crude comment about Bryant's wife.
Now, I know the sources you provided don't include the exact wording of that comment, but even the fact that it was deemed offensive enough to provoke a physical response from a man in his late 70s speaks volumes about the level of animosity between these two.
And Bryant did indeed respond physically. He punched Newton in the
Wow.
The police chief witnessed the whole thing and arrested Bryant for assault.
But here's where the legal system adds a twist. A judge later ruled in Bryant's favor. Stating that Newton's words about his wife constituted fighting words.
Oh, wow.
Essentially justifying Bryant's violent reaction.
that ruling is pretty controversial.
It is.
I mean, can a verbal insult, however offensive, ever truly justify physical violence?
It's a legal gray area.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
And this case raises some important questions about free speech.
Right.
What constitutes fighting words? And whether there should be a higher bar for justifying violence when it comes to elected officials.
This explosive meeting and the 2022 parking lot incident are just two examples of a long and complicated history of conflict between Newton and Bryant.
To fully understand the dynamics at play, we need to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not just about these isolated incidents. It's about the underlying tensions that are fueling them.
Yeah.
And one of the most significant factors we need to consider is the role of race and allegations of prejudice. You know, Tarrant is a predominantly black town, and Newton's election as the first black mayor was a historic moment.
It makes you wonder how much of the conflict stems from these shifting power dynamics in the town. It's like this small town is a microcosm of the political and social struggles we see across America.
Really is. And let's not forget the impeachment lawsuit filed against Mayor Newton by Tarrant residents.
Yeah.
It adds another layer of complexity to this whole saga.
The lawsuit accuses Newton of corruption, misuse of city resources, and general incompetence. Some pretty serious allegations.
Yeah.
They claim he used city funds for personal gain, hired family members without council approval, and canceled meetings without proper notice.
Now, it's important to note that the lawsuit, at least according to the documents you've shared, doesn't offer concrete evidence to back up these claims. But these types of accusations are not uncommon in local politics.
Especially when you have a community that's already deeply divided. And the timing of the lawsuit coming on the heels of these public clashes between Newton and Bryant raises questions about whether it's politically motivated.
Absolutely. It all feeds into this atmosphere of distrust and suspicion. It becomes difficult to separate genuine concerns about governance from personal vendettas or attempts to undermine a political opponent.
And how does a community like Tarrant move forward when there's so much animosity at the top?
It's a question with no easy answers. It seems like they're stuck in this cycle of conflict. And it's ultimately the residents who suffer the consequences.
It's got to be incredibly frustrating for the people of Tarrant to witness this dysfunction firsthand. They're seeing their elected officials more focused on fighting each other than on serving the community.
It's not just about the immediate impact on city services or local policies. It's about the erosion of trust in government as a whole. When people see their leaders behaving this way, it sends a message that this is how politics works. That it's all about personal power struggles and that compromise is impossible.
It makes you wonder about the long-term implications for civic engagement. Why would anyone want to get involved in local politics if this is what they have to look forward to?
It's a valid concern. And it's something we see happening across the country. People are becoming disillusioned with politics. And it's creating a vacuum that can be filled by more extreme voices or by apathy and disengagement.
This whole situation really highlights the need for accountability at all levels of government. If these accusations against Newton are true, there needs to be a process for investigating them properly. But if they're unfounded, then that's a serious attack on his character and leadership.
And the same goes for Bryant. If he is indeed using racial slurs, that can't be ignored. Words have power, especially when they come from someone in a position of authority.
It's a tricky situation, right?
It is.
Because you want to protect free speech, but at the same time, you need to hold people accountable for harmful and divisive language. Where do you draw the line?
It's a question societies have been grappling with for centuries. And it's especially challenging in today's hyper-partisan climate where every word is scrutinized and often weaponized.
This case really throws a spotlight on the challenges of leadership in a time of heightened polarization.
It does. Because how do you govern effectively when you're constantly battling opponents, facing accusations from all sides, and trying to navigate this incredibly complex social and political landscape? It's like trying to walk a tightrope during an earthquake.
One thing seems certain. This level of conflict and animosity is unsustainable.
Right.
Something has to give.
I agree. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
It can paralyze a community, preventing progress and eroding trust.
So how can a community like Tarrant break free from this cycle of conflict and begin to rebuild?
Well, I don't have a magic solution.
Right.
But I do think it starts with a commitment to open and honest dialogue.
But that's easier said than done, right?
It is.
Especially when the divisions run so deep.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to have a productive conversation when people are resorting to insults and violence?
It's incredibly difficult, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it's essential.
Right.
If they want to find a way forward. And it requires a willingness to listen to each other.
Yeah.
To understand different perspectives and to find common ground.
It also requires a willingness to compromise.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about recognizing that you may not always get everything you want, but that working together is the only way to achieve lasting solutions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, compromise has become a dirty word in politics.
This story from Tarrant reminds us that these national political battles,
these so-called culture wars, are playing out on a local level.
They are. Yeah. And it's having a real impact on people's lives, communities, and their faith in democracy.
It's a reminder that local politics matter.
They do.
Yeah.
These aren't just abstract debates happening in some far-off capital.
Right.
They're shaping the realities of our neighborhoods, our schools, our everyday lives.
And we need leaders who are committed to serving the needs of their constituents.
Yeah.
Not just their own egos.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's up to all of us as citizens to hold our leaders accountable and demand better from them.
Right.
We can't just sit back and watch these conflicts unfold.
Yeah.
We have to engage, to participate, and to make our voices heard.
It's a tall order.
It is.
Especially in these divided times.
Right.
But it's crucial if we want to create a more just and equitable society.
You know, this whole situation in Tarrant makes me think about the concepts of forgiveness and reconciliation.
It's a profound question.
Yeah.
Is forgiveness even possible in a situation like this?
Right.
And if so, what would it look like?
It's hard to imagine, given the level of animosity and hurt that's been displayed.
It wouldn't be easy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think it's worth striving for.
Right.
Because if we can't find a way to forgive,
to
reconcile with each other, then we're doomed to repeat these cycles of conflict over and over again.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the midst of chaos and division, there's always hope for healing and growth. This deep dive into the world of small-town politics has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to take a step back now and consider the broader implications of what we've learned.
Yeah.
What's particularly fascinating is how this case in Tarrant reflects a trend we're seeing across the country. The decline of local journalism and the rise of social media as the primary source of information for many people.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it that way before, but it makes sense.
Right.
Without robust local news coverage, it becomes much easier for rumors and misinformation to spread unchecked, fueling these kinds of divisions.
And social media, with its echo chambers and algorithms designed to keep us engaged, often amplifies those divisions rather than helping us bridge them.
Yeah.
It's like adding gasoline to a fire.
So what can we do about it? How can we, as citizens, contribute to healthier political discourse, especially in our own communities?
Yeah.
It feels like such a daunting task sometimes.
It is daunting.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's hopeless.
Right.
It starts with being more mindful of the information we consume and share.
Okay.
Are we getting our news from reliable sources? Are we critically evaluating the things we see on social media?
I think it also requires a willingness to engage with people who hold different viewpoints. It's so easy to stay in our own little bubbles surrounded by people who agree with us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help us understand the complexities of these issues.
Right.
Or find common ground.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's not about agreeing with everything someone says. It's about listening to understand.
Right.
Not just to respond.
Yeah.
It's about finding that space where we can disagree respectfully and have productive conversations.
You mentioned earlier that this case in Tarrant highlights the challenges of leadership. in a polarized time.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on what it takes to lead effectively in this kind of environment?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer. But I do think it requires a certain level of emotional intelligence, a capacity for empathy and understanding. It also requires a willingness to prioritize the needs of the community over personal gain or political point scoring.
And a commitment to transparency and accountability.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Leaders need to be open and honest with their constituents, even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
They need to be willing to acknowledge mistakes and learn from them.
This whole situation in Tarrant, with its escalating conflicts and accusations of corruption, raises the question of how impeachment works at the local level.
Okay.
Can you shed some light on the legal mechanisms at play here?
Sure.
Okay.
In Alabama, like many states, the process for impeaching a mayor or other local officials is similar to the process at the federal level, but on a smaller scale. It typically involves an investigation by the city council, followed by a vote on whether to bring formal charges. If charges are brought, there's usually a trial presided over by a judge or a panel of judges.
So it's not something that happens lightly.
It's not. There are specific legal thresholds that need to be met.
And it's important to note that even if an official is impeached, it doesn't necessarily mean they're removed from office. That's a separate decision that's often made by a higher authority, such as a state court or a governor.
It's a complex process. And it highlights the importance of having clear laws and procedures in place to ensure that these kinds of situations are handled fairly and transparently.
This case really drives home the point that these local conflicts have ripple effects that extend far beyond the individuals involved. The dysfunction in Tarrant's city government impacts the lives of every resident, from basic services like garbage collection and road repairs to economic development and the overall sense of community well-being.
It does.
So what does this all mean for our listener? What can they take away from this deep dive into small-town politics and big-time drama?
I think it's a call to action. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the political landscape of our communities.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed or powerless.
It is.
In the face of these complex issues.
But I truly believe that change starts at the grassroots level. It starts with each of us making a conscious effort to be more informed, more engaged, and more committed to building bridges rather than walls.
What are some concrete steps our listener can take to make a difference?
Well, they can start by getting involved in their local community, attend city council meetings, volunteer with organizations working to promote civic engagement, support local journalism, and most importantly, have those tough conversations with their friends, families, and neighbors. Even when it's uncomfortable.
Those are all great suggestions. And I think it's important to remember that we don't have to do everything at once. Even small actions can make a difference. Just by listening to this deep dive, our listener is already taking a step in the right direction. They're becoming more informed, more aware of the challenges we face, and more motivated to find solutions.
Exactly. And that's what gives me hope. Because when people are informed and engaged, when they're willing to listen to each other and work together, we can overcome even the most seemingly insurmountable challenges.
Well said.
Thank you.
This story from Tarrant may seem like small-town drama, but it raises big questions about power, respect, and the challenges of bridging divides in our communities.
And as we've seen, those challenges are present in every corner of America, not just in Tarrant, Alabama. It's a reminder that the work of building a more just and equitable society is ongoing, and it requires all of us to participate.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been a truly enlightening conversation.
Likewise.
And to our listener, thank you for diving deep with us.
Yes, thank you.
We hope this episode has inspired you to think critically about the issues we've discussed and to find ways to make a positive impact in your own community.